If you love pop punk music, then you've probably heard an octave lead part that sounds like this. This video is on how to get that guitar sound. If you make pop punk music, then you may have struggled to get this lead part to sound great and sit in the mix. So let's take a look at how I made the guitar tone and then mixed this very typical lead guitar part. So this is the tone, my absolute favorite amp sim, Archetype Nolly from Neural DSP, using the Crunch amp. Gain typically a bit higher than I would have for a rhythm tone. Bass all the way up, but we're going to deal with the low end later with EQ. Mids pulled back, quite scooped. If this was rhythm tone, I'd have my mids much more up here, and then I'd refine them later with EQ. Treble pushed up and a bit of presence, because it's going to get eaten into the rhythm guitar, so we need to find a way to make this tone a bit more distinctive so you can hear it through all the rhythm guitars. And a great way to do that is to use a different cab, which is why I haven't gone for the one in this plugin. The cab that I'm using, or the cab simulator that I'm using, is the oversized Cali from GGD. And what I've gone for is the smooth cab with 3 different mics blended together. So we've got the 57, which is the main tone, slightly darkened. Then I've got a KM184 brightened up, and then a really dark Royer, which is the ribbon mic, which gives it a sort of much more darker tone. So this is the guitar tone before we mix anything. So fizzy, we've got a bit of frequencies in there that aren't too nice. We've got some unwanted low end in there. We don't need the low end of this tone because we've got it from the rhythm and the bass. And I can already see here that the picking, as the chords change, gets a little inconsistent. So actually what I want to do is compress that before the amp so that nothing gets lost. So as you can see there, I actually settled on the limiter, used the L1 from Waves there. And it's much more even now. As the part goes up and down the neck, you're not losing anything. It's as present throughout the whole performance. So now we need to EQ this. So the first thing I'll use is a EQ like Pro Q3 to take away the bits I don't want. I can tell you straight away, there's some resonant fizzy frequencies and there's some low end I don't want. So that's the low end, and that's just going to get muddy along with everything else. You can hear what I've taken out here. That's just pointless rumble. Now let's deal with those ratty, fizzy frequencies I don't like. I like to make these dynamic so that when they pop out a bit more, the EQ will reduce them a bit more as a result. Okay, let's hear this whole EQ off and on and see if we've made it better or worse. Cool, I know I'm darkening this tone, but we're going to deal with that later on. And now we need to roll off the top end because the cymbals are up there and it's just going to interfere with those. Hopefully you heard how that brought the tone into focus a bit more. It sounded a bit messy and a bit blurry without that filter on the top end. Now let's mix it in with the rest of the song. I feel like there might still be some interfering sort of low mids. If you make music like this and want me to mix your next release, then head over to my website terrybeckleyrecording.com and get in touch via the contact form. I will get back to you. The link is in the description. Hopefully you can hear them when I turn the EQ off. and then back on again, you can hear how the tone sits better. That fizziness sort of gets in the way of everything else, makes everything sound a bit harsh, and it loses detail. When I put the EQ in, you can hear it just sort of sit into place. So I'll start with it off and I'll turn it on. It's pushed back a bit because we've lost the presence with those cuts in the harshness, but we're going to bring stuff like that back now. So I'll bring up a boosting EQ. I like to use the SSL channel from Waves for this, and we'll try and bring some of that brightness back. Yeah, there we go. We're pushing it in the 8K region there. It's an 8K shelf, and it's sort of moving the presence above those harsh frequencies, so you still get the presence, but you're not boosting all that fizz. So something else I like to do with leads, and this is sort of the secret weapon, is to boost a weird sort of mid-range frequency that wouldn't naturally occur to me to boost, but I'll find it by boosting around sort of 700, 800, 900 hertz, and I'll hear quite a big volume jump in the leads where it suddenly shoots forward. And I know that's the area where I can really make it sound distinctive and pop out from the rhythms. I'll show you what I mean. There we go, that honking frequency that you just heard, we can use to our advantage. Around 1K, it sounded horrible. It sounded weird the lower I went, but I think just above sort of 800, getting into 900 range, it sort of felt like a sweet spot. So it's not going to be this drastic. We're going to sit it in. It'll help the lead have more definition. There we go. Now it doesn't sound too drastic, but when I get rid of that boost at 900 hertz, the leads are going to disappear. So in this part of the song, it's the intro, so there are no vocals. So I am mixing it with a view for it to be the main focus. Later on in the choruses, that won't be a 4.5 decibel boost, that'll be 1 at 2 maybe at best. But for now, I need it to poke out and sit in a sort of similar place that the vocals would. Not frequency-wise, just balance-wise. Now let's add some tape saturation to give it a sort of analog feel and sound less in the box. I usually use Saturn 2 from FabFilter, but why not change it up a little bit? Let's use the NLS channel from Waves, which is another one I love to use. Stick it on the Neve because that's smooth and we'll start there. Yeah, cool, I like that. I boosted it to hear what it was doing so I could pick it out in the sound, and then I brought it back to a much more subtle place. Now this is all in mono, and I want to keep it mostly mono, but I think in parallel I might bring in some doubling effects, maybe some stereo delays. Let's have a play. Okay, I've got Logic stereo delay here, and I'm going to have a difference between the left and right delays. I'm going to set them so that the left and right are slightly different from each other. So let's go with 80 and then 120 on the right. Let's hear this. Cool, so I've gone for a bit of saturation on the delay. I just felt like it was sticking out a little bit. I'm going to pull these bands down a tad. Let's hear that. Yeah, it's a nice touch. I mean, probably bring it down a little bit more. Don't want it to be too obvious. Okay, so to take this a bit further, make it a little thicker. I don't always do this, but it's a cool little bonus tip if you're feeling like your leads are a bit thin, you want to thicken them up a little bit. I've taken the same plug-in chain, but I've added, before the amp, little altar boy, which is just a pitch shifter, and I've dropped it down an entire octave. This is effectively working in parallel, and I've dropped it all the way down, so minus 13 dB. So you're not supposed to hear that unless it's missing. So let's hear this off and on, and see if that extra bit of thickness helps. I like them both, but I do like, if I need a bit more thickness, that's a good trick to have in the back pocket. I think it's still great with just the one track, but adding that extra bit in gives you a bit more thickness and can help if your leads are sounding a bit thin and pokey. So want to see my method for creating great rhythm tones using amp sims? Then watch this video here, or check out my channel for tips on recording and mixing pop, punk and emo music. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.